Hey, I'm Cadillac with the Cage Rage Podcast. Welcome back. We're glad to have you.
I'm Miguel Batarelli on the Cage Rage Podcast, representing the International Brotherhood of Prize Fighters.
Hey, I'm Cadillac. Back to podcast number 30, 28, 27. I don't know, somewhere around there. Anyways, back to it. Glad to see you. Hey, today we're talking about something a little bit different. The history of walkouts. So walkout music, walkout style, flags, outfits, crazy stuff. Jonathan Ivey wearing the Leatherface outfit, coming out to chicken heads. You name it. We've seen it all through the years. And I'm here with my confidant, comrade, and partner in crime, Miguel Batarelli, fight analyst, representing the boxingchannel.com, the sweetscience.com, and the Brotherhood of... Fuck me, I forget it every single time. I don't know why I can't get it. But Miguel's about to tell you what it is. Miguel, take it away.
It's the International Brotherhood of Prize Fighters.
Jesus Christ, why can't I get that?
It's a lot of words, and some of them are long. I mean, that's my guess.
It's not that. It's just called low IQ. Somebody's got to be the smart one around here, and it's not me. So
yeah, that's frightening.
That's why I'm a host. See, hosts get to do the dumb stuff, like go. So tell me about that, or oh, that's interesting. I'd like to know more about that. I'm really good at that because I don't have to know anything. All I have to do is ask stupid questions and let smart people answer them. Thank God I have a smart person on the other end of the line to take care of all that good stuff for me. So, Miguel.
That's nice, Chad. That's very nice of you because, I scare myself sometimes. I was like, well, I don't think anybody cares, but it doesn't matter. I'm having fun.
So, I've been perusing the annals of the podcasting universe, and I got to say that I think we're doing something here at the Cage Rage Podcast that no one else is doing. And that's A, we're looking at the history of boxing. We're looking at the historicity of MMA. We're looking at current MMA and current boxing. And then we're tying all three of them together. And we're doing all of that in a very unique way that shows the audience that there is an absolute direct tie between MMA, boxing, and the history of the two. But today we're going to do something really unique. And we're going to talk about walkouts in the format that walkouts are a part of something that's kind of been lost, and we don't see it really anymore. And that includes boxing. And you don't see it in anything anymore. And it used to be a huge part of the display, the show, the charisma of the presentation of the fighters, so that the audience could get to know them before they got into the ring or the cage, so that they were more than just fist fights. They were a human being. They were a character. There was some kind of dialogue between the audience and the competitor prior to and after. So what do you think about that? Tell me something about that. First of all, talk a little bit about the history of walkouts.
Well, I think you're right. I think it has disappeared a little bit. I think that the fact is in the last, decade, really. All right, you got a lot to work with there with the walkouts. You look back at it, and I do think it's a little bit of a fading art or a fading interest that, we don't see as much of it. In the UFC, the big ones I remember off the top of my head are like, Randy Couture coming out to Thunderstruck. Something like Matt Hughes and his cowboy song,
Yeah.
So, yeah, they had shows they did there, and I think it went away a little bit. And I think one of the reasons for it is in the last decade, really, we're on television now. It really is now. Once you hit television, you're married to a schedule. You know, you got to be in 3 hours because the next show's got to start. You really don't have much of a choice. So,
timing's
and if you're,
everything.
especially if you're producing a live event, that's why, you know, for 3 hours you get 5 or 6 fights because they're covering all their P's and Q's to make sure everything gets done correct, you know. But yeah, I think TV governs a lot of that, and I think also too much of a good thing governs a lot. You know what I mean? It's not a spectacle, or it's not a big show if everybody has a walkout or whatever it is. You know, TV makes it to be a, you know, something. You know, if say there was a spectacular walkout, just like a Super Bowl show or anything like that. You know, it used to be. You know, when we were kids, even the Super Bowl show or something like that, you kind of had to see it, you know, live on TV. You're still talking about a TV event. You know, if you're talking about anything like a boxing match or anything, you almost had to go down to the Garden or go down to the fights and do that, you know. So that's what the live show was, and now it's much more TV. Now it's much more people could go on YouTube, right? So something spectacular happens and then they see it on YouTube. So you can actually, a lot of what we're going to talk about, maybe you can go look, you know, up on YouTube and check out what we're talking about, because some of it I think is interesting. You know, boxing's got a tradition of ring announcers. You know, they've got Hall of Famers, and you know they documented who did the ring announcing and stuff from fights in, you know, the early 1900s and before that. You know, so the person who did that is a bit of a character. You know, you got the Michael Buffers of the world now, the Ray Floreses of the world. That, you know, do the actual in-ring announcing, and they kind of, you know, brought a Vegas type of flash to it in the modern era. You know what I mean? Suits and and you know, stylish looking dudes. You know what I mean?
Well, let's not forget the king of Sting in MMA, Bruce Buffer.
Sure. You got Bruce. Yeah, you got Bruce, who's Michael's brother, and
good
Bruce,
friend of mine. Bruce is a great guy.
You know, the pair of them. You know, kind of chopped up the fight world, and the brother, you know, if I'm not mistaken, I know Bruce, and if I'm not mistaken, I think, you know, the partnership or whatever the brothers have there together in terms of business, I think Bruce is the smarter one of the two. I think he's more the guide of some of the business stuff there.
Absolutely.
And early on, he used to work, you know, for the UFC and work other events, and he'd be, you know, hey, this is my fee, and, you know, fly me out, and, you know, he'd help out smaller events, and he was doing all that.
Yeah.
And at some point, he, you know, business is business, and he's smart, and the UFC said, hey, you're going to be the voice of the Octagon. I think he actually calls himself that now, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, and he, you know, he brands everything, right, with the Let's Get Ready to Rumble as the model.
Yep.
So nobody else is going to be called the voice of the Octagon except Bruce Buffer. That's nice, you know. He's monetized it. He's got his money. He's exclusive now with them. He doesn't need to work for anybody else. So, you know.
Just let me cut you off for just a second there about that, and let the audience know that we have intentions of having Bruce on, and I'm not sure contractually how that's going to work yet, but I have sent Bruce an email. He responded that he wants to talk to me about it. And so at some point, I am going to be talking to him about coming on to the show, but that'll be a later show once we have some of the bugs worked out. So just so the fans know, Bruce will be eventually on the podcast, and that guy has an incredible life story that nobody knows anything about. And when you hear about it, it will absolutely blow you away, including some fascinating stories about being best friends with Steve McQueen's son. So let's get back to the thing at hand, though, and the walkouts. First of all, you skipped right over the greatest, most memorable walkout of all time, which was Matt Hughes coming out to A Country Boy Can Survive. And I think that's the one for the UFC that sort of set the walkout. Because prior to that, there was sort of this kind of a, okay, play some kind of heavy metal in the background because this is all, you know, play some kind of I'll kick your ass music, and they came out, or play some kind of Brazilian song because they're Brazilians in the background. And it was sort of a background noise, and it wasn't really instrumental in the show. It wasn't part of the show. It was more like you just knew it was going on, and it was kind of blended in with the sound of the audience as far as the pay-per-view buyer could see or hear. And then all of a sudden, Joe Rogan comes on and replaces our good friend Jeff Osborne. And in sort of overnight, the UFC takes this enormous jump forward, and we have the boom. And suddenly we have Tough and all of that stuff. And Matt Hughes becomes an overnight hero. He and his brother Mark were both fighting back then. And I think that was the night maybe that Matt won the championship from Carlos Newton.
Man. I remember the walk-in. I remember definitely working. When you're doing the show, and we've done a lot of shows, right? So nothing on the UFC's level. The UFC really does have their show down to and they have several shows. They do have their pay-per-view show. You can tell it's different than the Fight Night show. With some of the bells and whistles and things like that. And that's all more power to them. That's great.
Well, wait a minute. Let's clarify that this is prior to Fight Night, prior to Tough,
right?
Prior to any of that. This is just pay-per-views back then.
In the old days, the fighters would show up, and if they had some music they wanted to use,
here
to walk into, they would give a tape to in the UFC they give a tape to Elaine McCarthy, or whatever, try to get it into the production, and the deal and the deal was there. A lot of the times the on smaller shows it's like tell the fighters everybody brings their song, so everybody like you said bring a tape. A lot of the times the TV, the production says, all right, for example, at my shows, I lean towards heavy metal. So I was like, forget that. Everybody's going out to music that's picked for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at the UFC's level, when they played Thunderstruck, I'm sure AC/DC got a piece of the money, right? I'm not sure, when we played, a band's song at one of our live shows that wasn't broadcast like that. Yeah, that anybody would, that anybody's gonna monetize on that somehow,
Right.
But once you're at the UFC's level, AC/DC, everybody got in, but they put on a nice show with, like that. So, then you had Pride's take where they had Lennie Hart, and was a completely different deal, which I loved. That was my favorite. I thought that was weird enough that I would have tried it on one of our shows, but nobody let me.
Well, hold on. Let me back up for just a second. I happen to know a little bit extra about the Matt Hughes Country Boy Can Survive walkout. I'd actually forgotten about this until you were talking. Monty and I, Monty Cox to me, I call him the godfather of MMA because he was kind of the first guy who was smart enough to say, hey, I'm going to manage a bunch of these guys and put them together. And he and Phyllis Lee were sort of the first two to really kind of manage a lot of people and work contracts with them and do that kind of thing. And, he wasn't the only one, obviously. I don't mean to insult anyone who wasn't. But Monty was really smart about that. And he monetized a lot of different aspects of it. And I learned an awful lot from Monty. He was willing to take me under his wing and teach me things that other people just wouldn't do because everyone was so goddamn jealous of everyone else and so afraid back then. But Monty told me the story. How much of this is made up and how much isn't, I don't know. But the night that Matt fought for whomever he fought that night, they got him off of a combine to go have that fight, or off of a tractor. Monty says it's a combine. So they went to Illinois, where Matt lives and farms, and he still farms today. And I don't know how he's doing, by the way, after his wreck. He looks like he's doing pretty well. We'll talk about that at some point. But Matt was on a combine picking beans, and they pulled up and they said, hey, you've got a fight to go to. You need to be on the plane. And he was like, oh, shit. And they had to run up and pack his bag and run him to the airport and fly him they had to change his flight and get him to Vegas for the fight. And then he gets there, and that was the first time that that an entry song ever became a really big deal. And he came out to A Country Boy Can Survive, and I remember Joe Rogan saying, "Did he just say he has a dog named Bo?" Or whatever the lyric is. He says, "I live out back in the woods, with a something or other and a dog named Bo," or something like that. I should know every word to that. I grew up with every third person in my high school listening to that song in their truck. It wasn't my thing. I was a metal guy, but I was the only metal guy in my school, I think. But yeah, so that became a really huge deal, and from that, other people started to realize, hey, that's a really good way for me to get attention, because it branded Matt as, put the farmer's hat on, and shortly after that, he came out with the Army shirt, and he had the Bible in his hand, and he'd just gotten back from going somewhere down in South America to on a missionary thing, and he became that the farm boy. That should have been his nickname, Matt the Farm Boy Hughes. I mean, but anyway, so that's the story on that one.
You gotta go old school with that. You gotta go old school with that, like the old boxers or whatever. That's fucking Farmer Hughes.
Okay. Tell the audience about Farmer Hughes.
Hey, Farmer Hughes, Matt's a guy that, Monty, I know Monty pretty well too. Monty told me that Matt's a guy that, made money. Mentioned the dollar figure, I don't need to mention it here, but he made money. And Matt's a guy that is the kind of guy that, put it away. When they're talking about tractors and combines and stuff like that, Monty confided in me that Matt, being the farmer he is, he invested in some John Deere equipment. And, it was serious dollars kind of stuff. So if a combine means a more serious tractor, I bet it was a combine. You know what I mean? Yep. The guy, that's the guy's passion. He also liked guns. I know that he liked he's got property, and he can fire his guns on his property and stuff like that. He's got his hobbies and stuff. I hope he's doing well. But he was a guy who, the lifestyle of spending the money and stuff like that, he spent that on his things, but he still had money, and he was able to put it away and do well for himself, As for Monty, you can only point to Monty in the early days and say, in his stable he had Tim Sylvia, Rich Franklin, Matt Hughes, Jens Pulver. I may be missing another UFC champion here and there, but
Jeremy Horn.
You're talking about a roster. Huh? Horn never held a UFC belt, right? But
oh yeah, that's true.
You're talking about I just mentioned UFC champions. That's 4 of them all around the same era that Monty controlled. So he definitely deserves a place in history, right? As far as the Godfather or whatever, there's a very credible credential for him, if anybody's doubting it, And he did that the right way because fighters gravitated towards him. They wanted to be helped by him because the guy ran the show. He had, a situation where he was prolific with his show running, so he could team up with somebody. If they were a ticket draw locally, he would run a show locally with them. And work, the ticket sales aspect and things like that. So he made people money in the early days of MMA where other people were struggling. So he definitely, deserves kudos from everybody. The ring entrance with you said you're a metalhead. All right, so let's do this, man.
So let's stay on track. Okay, so
you go. What were you walking into? What did you walk into when you fought?
My first 5 or 6 fights, I walked into Propane, Crush, Kill, Destroy. It's actually called Crush, but the song is gonna crush, kill, destroy. Dun, 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 dun.
That's a good thing for YouTubers out there. You should probably go look up every one of these songs just for the first 30 seconds of it or whatever, because that's what they would use for the walkout, right? So
yeah,
YouTube helps us on this. We can't clip and use these songs in the podcast, but go out and look at them.
Yeah, definitely. Propane plays bars now, and they're still playing. They're still putting out music. I mean, if they ever actually sat down and talked to me about my political views, they'd probably fucking shoot me in the face because they're on, completely,
right-wing.
Other ends of the spectrum, almost on everything. But they're constitutionalists and that kind of stuff, and they, and I'm all for gun rights, but they're kind of ultra gun right. So Propane was who I came out to. I was powerlifting back then, and of course wrestling, and I saw a sign and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I want to try that. And so that's what led me into MMA in the first place, or NHB back then. And so, I tried it, and I had fought backyard fights, and I'd fought parking lot fights and that kind of stuff a bunch by then. But I mean, like, if you would consider it where there were tickets sold and people came in and there was a referee and there was something like rules, that was different, where they go, hey, we'll play a song for you if you have one. And I was like, right here. I had the CD in my car, pulled it out, and they were like, oh, we don't have a CD. And I was like, what the fuck? You don't have a CD? And this guy was like, hold on, I'll run and I'll make it for you. And so they dubbed it off for me on a cassette tape, and the guy had a cassette tape and he stuck it in. That's how long ago that was. But yeah, Crush was the song I played, because they said, gonna crush, kill, destroy. And it just made me want to fucking crush, kill, and destroy, and felt really good.
I was gonna say it made you feel like 5'7".
Yeah. What would you come out to if you were gonna fight? What would you come out to?
I guess
Me
like
Loco?
something aggressive. Well, there's two ideas that I have in my head, right? I think like I have a song like that gets you pumped up, and like for the audience, and it's probably Devil Drivers, I Dreamed I Died.
Okay.
Which is, you got to go ahead and listen to it, but it's the same thing. Destroy All is when you hear the call, when you hear the call, destroy all. It's the chorus. It's very much. It comes with a nice rhythm and stuff. I could see it would be something. See, modern music with electronics and stuff like metal is like almost like it's hard to get like metal that's not kind of like slow and more ponderous and stuff. And this has kind of got a nice energy to it. So I like that song like to come out. I would have used it for like a main event fight or something like that, and somebody else to come out. The other song you're referring to is more of like if I was fighting and you had to put on like earphones like to get pumped up for a fight, I would probably use I Am Loco from El Nino.
From El Nino?
Yeah. And
yeah, those guys are badass. Didn't you tell me one time that they're a Christian rock band? I
don't know that I don't know anything about them other than that they're from like New Jersey and that they're Latins. And that they're kind of like the dreadlocky metal, kind of modern metal kind of stuff. If you wanted me to pick an old school song to walk into,
yeah,
this is what I wonder. I'd love to hear this like recorded on modern equipment and hear it rip, but it's The Eliminator by Agnostic Front.
Oh fuck.
So
yeah,
I could go either way. It depends. That could fall flat in a big with the wrong audience and stuff like that. But I think if you had the right people, those are my three songs.
Okay, so what about if we had to come out to a punk song, or even kind of the post punk pre thrash era, even if you want to go that, because it would kind of be hard to come out to some of the punk rock, because a lot of it. How do you come out to the Dead Kennedys? That's kind of or how do you come out to MDC's Chicken Squawk? That gets difficult. You're gonna come out to punk. What do you come out to?
A punk rock song, huh?
A punk rock song.
I gotta say, I'm not like I love punk rock. Like old 70s, 80s. Like there are probably Ramones songs you could use if I had to think about it.
You would come out to a fucking Ramones song? That's so dead beat, though.
But like, I'm looking one up now for you because.
Okay, as you're looking it up, I'm going to talk to the audience about something that very few people ever saw, which was the Bodog Music reality thing that they did that had Johnny Rotten, or Johnny Lydon, whatever, but Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols was involved in it. And he is just as much of a fucking asshole in person as he is on camera, which actually makes him really cool because he is really that guy. So if I was going to come out to a punk song, I think I would have to come out to what I believe are the founders of punk, even though they were arguably 3 months behind the Ramones. I think I would come out to I'd come out to the Sex Pistols.
Anarchy?
No, that's too easy. God Save the Queen, maybe.
Okay. Oh, that would be really good for you. But let me mention. All right, for my choice, and it's not off of one of their old school albums. It's also something they did on a comeback thing. But I'm a big Channel 3 fan when it comes to like California punk, and I'd come out probably to either Time to Kill, which probably Time to Kill is the one I would use, or The Fortune's Alive. Those are the two songs that get me going. I like them.
Okay. So there's a couple. We'll try and have Aaron. I think we can get away with linking these below, right? On YouTube?
Yeah, we could probably put links in.
So we'll have Aaron put links below all of these songs below, so you can check them out for yourself. And all the bands will appreciate that because these are bands that most of them don't get any kind of airing or publicity anymore. So hopefully we give them a little bit, show them a little bit of love, man.
Channel 3 is, first album released in '79, so they're like real early California punk scene kind of guys. Couple of spectacular albums, some songs. I mean. The Last Time I Drank, just like, some songs that I'll always love. You know what I mean? And oddly,
hey, Miguel, try and control how much you're moving around because you're getting real blurry because of your internet connection right now. Miguel's in Costa Rica, so his internet connection is kind of rough right now.
Yeah, we're getting the blues here. So yeah, I was just saying, it's like they got together, they put together some music and stuff, and it's like as older musicians. They I don't know. I think they put together a good disc. I think one of the metal discs where we saw a band come back after 20 years and put together something exceptional was one of the ones that that we caught on to over when we were together last, which was that Onslaught album.
Oh yeah, man, that's killer.
Yeah,
and it's new. It's brand new, and it's smoking hot. I mean.
Yeah, I think
rips, man.
It's like the last 8 years or so. Yeah, they've released other stuff, but that one in particular was a comeback. From
what was the name of that one?
It was the new album from Onslaught. Oh, I don't even know. I'll have to look it up here, but
we'll include it in the show notes and stuff. But man, that one rips. That would be so killer for somebody to come out to. I don't know what the politics are. I'm probably yelling. Sorry. I don't know what the politics are, or what the legalities are on licensing for people to use those now in the UFC. But there's an awful lot of music that's used in the UFC, and they're getting paid to do that. No different than when you hear "We Will Rock You" in the NFL between commercials. The Queen gets paid or someone gets paid.
They deserve to get their music. I mean, we're not making any money off of their music, so some of those guys might appreciate it.
Yeah.
You're open always to somebody who could say, hey, you can't play that, and that type of decision tends to get made by lawyers and, bigger groups and stuff in my mind. So we're just trying to help out, just put up, basically we kind of decided to dedicate a podcast to a little bit of metal, a little bit of music, a little bit of the walkouts, so... no harm done, but yeah, I think with links and stuff. And older guys, check out the songs because I'm going to go check out Propane right now.
Oh, Propane's just badass, and they just put out a new album that's just as good as anything they've ever done because it's all the exact same riff. It all sounds exactly the same. The guy hasn't lost his voice, which a lot of these metal guys, you know, they lost their voices as they get older. It's really hard to keep that deep tone, and you know they've sang that and smoked cigarettes and smoky bars and drank whiskey for 30 years. You just can't keep that going, you know. There's an old rock band or kind of heavy rock, whatever, called Warrior Soul that I really liked. And they were kind of an anthem band that came out in the late 80s and early 90s. And Corey Clark, I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he was a tremendous writer, and he had a really great knack for anthem, if you like that kind of stuff. And Corey and I talk online once in a while, and I don't care much for the new stuff he's done because he's lost his voice. But the old stuff, if you go back and look at Old Warrior Soul, Drugs, God, and the New Republic, Last Decade, Dead Century, Ghetto Nation, that kind of stuff, some of the best rock albums that I've ever heard in my life. They're not metal, they're rock, but you know, I mean, we can chop that up a million ways. So to keep going with the actual topic, though, so what's the weirdest, strangest, or most memorable walkout you've ever seen? It doesn't have to be metal. It doesn't have to be. What's the weirdest song, weirdest outfit, weirdest thing you've ever seen somebody do to walk out?
All right, now you're spreading out again.
And this could be tricky because we've seen so many fights that our audience may not know some of these people. So we may have to kind of say, okay, there was this guy in this show called
a fighter in Japan came out, and I don't know what the music was, but it was kind of like you know, he might as well been playing Celebration because he came out in a wedding dress.
Wow, that's pretty hip.
The interesting thing, the thing is you know, if you come out in a wedding dress and kick someone's ass, maybe you know. But if you come out in a wedding dress and you get your ass kicked, and that's exactly what happened to this guy. He got walloped in about 90 seconds and he was done. But I remember just thinking the whole. It's just like, how does that guy just? How do how do you face life like after?
I got a better one. I've got a better one. I don't want to try to outdo you, but I've got a better one, man. I've got one more embarrassing than that. You remember David Love? David Love was this fighter that I managed and trained with for years at the Animal House Fighting Systems. Great fighter, could have gone somewhere, crested on the edge of it, and then just kind of got too goddamn old before he made it. And that's really the bottom line. Age caught him before he caught before the WEC came around. That's really what it amounts to. Because if the WEC would have got there in time, David would have been one of those guys that could have made it. Hey, David Love, what's happening, brother? I love you very much. You know, by the way, David's a single dad taking care of 2 kids all by himself. Show him some love. And he just got his brown belt. Congratulations, David. But David is the most gifted natural athlete I've ever seen in my life. So we go to Ron Faircloth and Pat O'Malley's show in Madison, Wisconsin, called the Madtown Throwdown at Madison University. Ron Faircloth was a near and dear friend of ours. Ron lost his life a few years back. Rest in peace, brother. We love you. You're very, very much missed. And we think about you all the time, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart. But we'll do a show on Ron sometime. Ronzilla, he fought in the UFC and fought everywhere and fought everybody and actually suffered from chronic traumatic encephalopathy, among other things. So David goes up there and fights Madtown Throwdown, and Pat's like, I got this dude, man, and he's wanting to do something really special, bro. And so I want Love to come up and fight him because this guy's a real fucking cocksucker. And if he's going to fight somebody, he's going to have to fight somebody fucking tough. And he told me, he said he wants the fucking baddest. And I said, oh, you want the baddest? I got a fucking guy for you, bro. I got a fucking guy for you, motherfucker. So he said, bring fucking Love up for him. We'll see if he's fucking tough or not. And David goes out there and fucking annihilates this guy. And I don't mean he beats him up a little bit. I mean he fucking kicks the shit out of him. Because O'Malley tells him before the fight, he says, I'm not telling you what you can or can't do, but I'd rather see you fucking beat his goddamn ass than just tap him out. So David beats the fucking hell out of this guy. Knocks him down, backs up, stands him back up, knocks him down 3 or 4 times with leg kicks. And you know how bad that is, man. I mean, that's a guy that's just like fucking standing in the corner crippled, just hoping the guy's going to come and take him down or something. So the guy shoots on David, and David finally, ends it and arm bars him and damn near snaps the guy's arm in half because the guy wasn't fucking smart enough to tap because he really did think he was tough. And he was a tough guy. It's not that. It's just David just so far outclassed him from what he thought he was that, in the end, David just fucking smoked him. So after this total fucking ass kicking, Pat gets in, or the guy, Big John, that they had there that did the announcing, goes in and he interviews David, and that guy takes the microphone from John, and John's standing there like, what the fuck? And he goes over and he gets on the turnbuckle, and he climbs up on the turnbuckle. He can barely walk, his leg's so swollen already. And he gets on the turnbuckle, and he's standing on it like this. And he goes, Amanda so-and-so, Amanda so-and-so, Amanda so-and-so. Finally, she comes walking up, and she's like, what are you doing? Get down. What are you doing? And he reaches in his cup, and he pulls out a ring, a box. And he opens it up, and he goes, will you marry me? He's got the ring and the whole works. And she goes, no. And he goes, he goes, no. And she goes, no. And he goes, okay. And he snaps the bottle closed, puts it back in his pants, and gets down, rolls out of the ring, and just drops the microphone and left the building, man. He didn't put his shoes on or anything. He just left. That is fucking dejection.
Yeah, I
beat that one.
I don't mean to laugh, but that is, that's a Midwest story.
We were the Wild West. Choo, 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 choo. Hey, we got time for one more. I know you've got something from the vault, man. Give me one more. What's the okay, one more classic rock.
Like
or how about this? Rock? 80s pop rock.
All right. If you take an 80s band and take maybe later music, I kind of like you want kind of a showy thing. Conor McGregor could use this, I think. The people might not like my style or whatever. There's a Jane's Addiction song called "The Riches," and it starts out and it's all about, it's got it's very much bouncy, but at the end, my image is he comes out to the song because it's kind of a cool song and it's called "The Riches" and he is rich already, right? So, and it is kind of like, hey, I'm sitting here looking down at all the world's riches, and that's kind of the song. So it's, and at the end, if he wins, there's like a piece at the end of the song where it's kind of like a dream where he says, everything I told you is a guarantee. And so I kind of always pictured it's perfect for him because he always delivers that kind of, people want it. He would pop the song, but the band's already pretty big. A song off of that album that's on is the theme song for the Entourage TV show, called, and that song's Superman. So, so Jane's Addiction's a big band, But yeah, I think, if you paid them a little bit, you could use the song, and those sequences kind of work in my head. I don't know if they work in anybody else's, but at the end, with the win, instead of handing him the mic, the music goes on, boom. And it's something silly like, hey, I told you that the sky is blue and that the earth is green, and we want lots of fresh, clean flowers in between. Haven't I told you already? Everything I told you is guaranteed. That's how the song ends.
That's
That's
pretty good.
very much the Greg. If I'm not sure, maybe it's morphed in my head a little bit, but yeah, that's my, if you want me to pick a show song and doing it for McGregor, I think The Riches.
Okay, well, give me one good story of an actual event that you've seen someone come out to, where you just went, wow, that was unique, different, cool, strange, weird, bizarre, great. One more.
Right, I'll take my hats off to Indiana Fighting Family, the Wisniewskis, and they always.
Here's to Keith and Justin Wisniewski.
Yeah. And there's others too. There's other tough Wisniewskis out there that I don't know they got in the ring, but in the gym they all smashed heads at some point, right? And Keith's a UFC veteran. Justin didn't get there, but Keith's a UFC veteran, so he has a place. And he always, he's a guy with 50 fights on the smaller scene, so he's a pioneer. And he always, put a little bit of care into his songs, and he cared about it. And I remember he came out to "Do You Really Want to Hurt Me?" And I think, I think it's Culture Club. Is it called Culture Club?
That's Culture Club. That it is.
So it's not exactly like a mainstream choice. But with the the "Do You Really Want to Hurt Me?" and he's heading into a fight, you kind of he's onto something. He's telling a story there. He's getting people's attention. So I think he deserved credit.
Yeah, Keith, the first time I met him, we did a show for you in Boston, and I don't remember the guy's name that you match made that show for. Bob, maybe.
Tom.
We were right by Wrigley Field, or not Wrigley Field.
Fenway.
Fenway, yeah, by Fenway Park, and great club. Girls dancing, and it was it had all the bells and whistles. It was an awesome show. And Keith fought Nuri Shakur, right? And Keith said, he came up and he goes, "Hey, you're Chad Wagner, right?" And I said, yeah, I am. And I looked at him and I go, holy shit. I said, you're the Polish Connection. Because I had read about him in this magazine called NHB back then, which was one of the only media sources we had besides like some really cheap shit and the underground and an online source called intensecombat.com by a guy named Rick Morrison. Rest in peace, Rick. Which is now a defunct website. And Keith said, hey, would you be willing to help corner me with my brother Justin here? And I was like, yeah, sure. And you would have to see Keith and Justin to understand what I'm about to say. When you look at these two guys, you go, somebody's going to steal their lunch money. And I say that with all due respect, but they do not look like anything imposing as athletes or fighters, or they just do not have. They look like they could be on an episode of The Big Bang Theory rather than an episode of Tough. And they could be because they're that smart. But they could also be on Tough because they're that tough. So I walk out there, and America, Sandman comes on. And I hear the song, and I'm like, what the fuck? And this guy's just like walking out there like, he looks like he's going to fall asleep. And I'm thinking, and Nuri's already out there, and man, he's jacked. And, he came out to some hip-hop song about, I'm gonna shoot motherfucker, kill motherfucker, I'm so rich, and I'm gonna blah, blah, blah. And, Keith's coming out to the Sandman and looks like he's going to fall asleep. And Justin's like walking out there like, and I'm thinking, man, have these guys taken Quaaludes? And, man, we got out there and the bell rings, and Keith beat the fucking shit out of Nuri. He beat him so bad, I felt sorry for Nuri. He dropped so many knees into Nuri's face that at one point I looked at the referee and said, hey, ref, because he's in our corner. I go, hey, ref, I think he's done, and I think he wants you to stop the fight. And Nuri's like, he looks at me out of his gloves and kind of does this. Like, yeah, I would like that very much at this point because there was no way he was winning that fight. And then the ref stops the fight. You can look that fight up online, I think, probably, right? The AFC stuff's still on there somewhere.
You know, a lot of that stuff got bought up, so I don't know. You know, the UFC's bought up a lot of libraries. That's Tom Hafer's up in Massachusetts. The US MMA, I think we did 3 shows together, and you know, he put on exceptional quality shows. He put a lot into him, so he deserves a lot of credit. As for the Wisniewskis, I think, you know, I mean, I remember when I first met them, and it was like, yeah, you know, their pre-fight drink is like a 7-Up, and their pre-fight meal is like some Skittles and shit. You know what I mean? They were kids, you know what I mean? But
they were
very
kids.
Little kids, you know, because Keith was 16 years old, and that's where a lot of that awkwardness, you know, when they got started, you know, at the end of the day, right now, Keith's a, you know, 220-pound iron worker that I think few fucking people would ever mess with it. You know what I mean? And then you add UFC veteran to that, and you're not talking about anybody's going to confuse for a nerd or anybody like that now because he's a man. You know what I mean?
Well, of course, yeah.
When they were kids, yeah, they had that, you know, the glasses, and they had that kind of like, you know, but, you know, along with nerds becomes the idea of being students of the game, and then you get a guy who's really got a cerebral portion to what he always did, even from back then. And I think that Do You Really Want to Hurt Me kind of gives you a little bit of an insight that there's a brain working in Keith Wisniewski.
Most certainly.
He's a good kid, you know what I mean? So I think, you know, hats off to him. I love that guy.
Yeah, and you know, and I'll finish up with this because it'd be a shame to talk about Keith without giving Justin his props as well. Like you said, Justin never made it to the UFC, but I watched him in Wisconsin come out to Uncle John's band, and he stopped in the middle of the audience and did this dance, man, and, you know, just did this dead dance, and he stood there for, man, like a quarter of the song, dead in the center of it, and, I mean, he just got down. It was so awesome. Any deadhead in the audience was just, wow, and there are a lot of deadheads in Wisconsin, you know, so they really dug it. And, you know, Keith and Justin are true blue deadheads. When you would walk into their training facility, you know, they literally went 100% every single practice. And they were like, well, you know, we practice like we train. And I said, man, guys, that's a really short lifespan for your fighters and for you. And I don't know if that's the best way to go. And, man, somehow they pulled it off, and they produced a lot of really badass individuals. Mark and all those guys. Man, that's another episode, though. Hey, Miguel, do you have anything to add before we cut it off here?
No, I think I had fun doing the episode. You know, I don't know. You know, we talked about a little bit of fun stuff and things like that. I think, you know, there's some good talking points in there. Maybe we add a little bit of music to what people give us feedback about. Talk to some of the metalheads out there.
Right on. Metal up your ass. Oh, I'm sorry.
Namaste.
Namaste.
I think. Oh,
metal up your ass.
Devin Townsend. I have a Devin Townsend song called that he did called Namaste. I'm gonna send you.
Pete Townsend did?
No, Devin Townsend. He's a
Devin Townsend. Yeah, I know Devin Townsend. I'm not a fan, but yeah, I get it.
No, he's not terrific, but he does have a song called Namaste. You want? We'll end with this. Canadian metal. Have you heard 3 Inches of Blood?
No, I've not.
Go listen to 3 Inches of Blood. It's
I'll
like Iron Maiden it's like Iron Maiden with the best screaming that you've. It is without a doubt the best heavy metal screaming. I promise you. 3 Inches of Blood. You may hate it, but you've never heard anything like it. They fucking have it. It's something unique.
I'll put it to you this way. Bob Voss told me to listen to Job for Cowboy, and I was like, okay. I feel like I need to take a shower. And then I listened to a song from Cannibal Corpse, which, Jesus Christ, Cannibal Corpse, called Hammer Smashed Face. And I was like, this can't be that terrible. And then I read the lyrics, and I was like, I turned it off and I said, I never, ever, ever want to fucking hear anything from them again. I never want to see them. I hope they don't really exist in real life.
3 Inches of Blood is more Iron Maiden-y type of like, hey, we charge into battle against the ogres and that kind of lyrics. Like
on my steed with my sword.
But what it is it's two singers, and it's the interchange of the screaming. It's kind of like the only thing I can compare it to is the first time I heard Cypress Hill. If you remember the rap group Cypress Hill,
of course,
because those two guys had extremely unique voices and deliveries, right? Especially for the time it was new. You were like, whoa, you know. So these guys are like that, where it's like I've not heard this in metal, you know, before. The screaming, the guy has had to take breaks from tour because he cannot tour because of his vocal cords, and he's been told to stop and stuff. And you'll notice it immediately when it starts in the choruses and stuff of what they're doing that's unique. So go put out 3 Inches of Blood now, and see you later, podcast world.
3 Inches of Blood. CageRagePodcast.com. Subscribe below. Let us know what you think of everything. We appreciate everything you guys are doing for us. We're growing leaps and bounds. We're getting ready to be launched into the universe of podcasts everywhere. For now, you can find us on YouTube, and you can find us on Facebook and stuff like that. And, of course, you can find us on the CageRagePodcast.com. We appreciate everything you're doing for us. We're getting ready to grow like crazy. See you soon.